Hey, it's me. So I thought maybe at this point it could be helpful to do a mini review of some of the ideas that we've been talking about recently. Let's start with this concept of purification. So when we talk about purification, we're talking about clearing away every feeling and attitude in your soul that goes against what is right and true in a spiritual sense. These attitudes don't just count as mistakes. They also cause you suffering, even if you aren't aware of how you're breaking these spiritual rules inside yourself. So we're not dealing here with crimes or obviously bad deeds. You know how to act correctly, and you do so most of the time, right? None of us, though, can fully handle our emotions or understand the hidden reasons behind them or see how these feelings affect our lives. That's what we're talking about. Now, many question if God is fair. For example, you feel you suffer so much while doing your best to be a good person, while you may see others who aren't as moral seeming to have it easier. So you don't understand why this is or how it could be fair. The truth is, deep inside your mind, you form certain beliefs and decisions, what we talked about as images. These images come from early life experiences that led you to draw the wrong conclusions. These images cause chain reactions in your soul and eventually steer the direction of your life. This happens precisely because they're hidden from your everyday awareness. On this path, one of our main goals is to uncover these hidden images that everyone has, except maybe for a few very pure souls who are here for a special purpose. So before we talked about how to start finding these images, how to start uncovering them, it's not easy because these hidden patterns live in parts of your mind you're not normally aware of. And I gave you some methods to bring them into the open. This is the only way you can gain some real control over your life. Some people, often very religious people, think they must accept every difficulty as like this test of their humility. Now, that's only true if they've acknowledged the law they broke inside themselves. Admitting your own role in your troubles instead of blaming unfairness is true humility. Real humility isn't just sitting back and accepting misery. It also means being active, willing to work, grow, and take responsibility for your suffering in the most direct. Okay, so this is a good example of how the active and passive sides of your soul can work together. You can't just sit around waiting for change. You have the power to change your life now. Not only by fixing what you do on the outside, you must first look inside and find the wrong conclusions, those images. Only when you understand what caused your suffering can you start to guide your emotions in a healthier direction, clear your images, and create new, better patterns in your soul that follow spiritual law. This gift of inner freedom isn't cheap. Remember we talked about how we all have to pay the price? Now, I can tell you it's worth all the effort and sacrifice because then you really become master of yourself. If you're willing to try, help will come, support will be there. But again, don't expect God to fix your life for you. God gave you free will. It's up to you to find and fix these hidden images. And there's people that can help you, like myself, but you must do the work. As you search and change, you need the right kind of humility to handle the pain you've caused yourself without getting mad at your own imperfection. You need to be strong and active as you look deep into yourself. Learn to accept with all your feelings that right now you are imperfect. So I've said this many times, but I think it's important to repeat. Even though you know in your mind that you can make mistakes, your feelings may still demand perfection. When you find a new flaw inside yourself, you rebel against that discovery. That's human nature. One sign of this kind of rebellion is feeling guilty. As you uncover these hidden images, the causes of your pain, the patterns that repeat in your life, you need to expect finding some wrong ideas that make you feel uneasy at first. Meeting those with guilt isn't helpful. Guilt basically means rejecting the state you're currently in and not wanting to accept yourself as you really are. Okay, so if you feel uneasy doing this work, ask yourself, what do I really feel? Often you don't notice that you're feeling guilty. Even if you do, you may not realize what guilt truly means. Sometimes guilt can be confused with humility or remorse. But once you know what to expect, this normal sense of unease that comes with doing this work, and analyze your feelings, it will lead you to this important understanding. Put your feelings into words. Be aware that discomfort can start before you know exactly what you've discovered. So writing down your thoughts is a major part of this path. By doing this, you'll see that you feel guilty for being imperfect. And then you can ask yourself, why do I feel guilty for having faults? Why do I feel guilty for having faults? The answer usually is because you wish you were more perfect, more advanced. Part of you refuses to accept your own ignorance or selfishness, and realizing this will help you handle these feelings more easily. Okay, so this is how it could look. First, you gather a lot of separate pieces of information about your inner feelings. By letting emotions rise and describing them instead of hiding them, you'll find things you never knew about yourself, and they may surprise you. These pieces may not make sense at first. You might think, now what? How does knowing this help? Don't be discouraged. It's very useful, even if it doesn't click just yet. Keep searching, and you'll get help. Now, as I said, no one can do this alone. We're not meant to do this alone. But anyone who's willing will find someone else to work with. I have our community to offer you, myself to help, and there may be people in your inner circle already who can help you with us. If you keep at it, all these separate pieces will start to connect. You'll find a chain reaction, a vicious circle in yourself. One reaction leads to another until a loop forms. And when you've found several such loops, you've made a huge step forward. Slowly, you'll start to understand yourself and your life. It's at this stage that you found the basic structure. The real filling in comes a little later, and then you'll be able to truly understand what your life and conflicts mean and how you cause them. Maybe you'll understand some parts at this stage, but not quite everything. So a tip for you that I have is once you found some of these vicious circles or cycles, write down clearly the wrong conclusions inside them. Putting them down in words means you can't forget or ignore them. Then think about how these wrong conclusions influenced your life. Remember that nothing is as strong as these images or perceptions. If your images contain desires that clash with what you want consciously, the images win. They pull certain people and events into your life. Realizing this can help you see which wrong conclusions are behind your problems. Keep a list of all your problems and conflicts in writing. Check for that common factor. You may not know yet what caused them, but after finding these vicious circles, these loops, more searching will show you usually one main factor. You may find that some issues have repeated themselves in different forms. This pattern means an image is at work. If a problem happened only once, it might not involve an image. Be careful discerning them. Understand how the newly conscious wrong conclusions caused your troubles. After you figure out the wrong conclusion, start to think about the opposite idea, at least in theory. Your feelings may not be ready to live by the correct idea yet, But if you can face the wrong idea by actually feeling it, reliving the emotions behind it, then you'll see what the right conclusion should be. If you think about this every day, your reactions will slowly change. And of course, changing your thinking isn't enough. Your thinking might have been correct. You also need to change your feelings. The wrong conclusions always involve some of your faults. And now you see how they connect with your images. Though you didn't look for faults while searching for images, because being moralizing makes your unconscious resist you, now that you see the image structure, note what faults are part of it. I could tell you that fear is always part of images. If you think about how a certain fear ties in with your faults and see where you lack understanding and how that caused a wrong conclusion, you'll take another huge step toward breaking your images. People are scared of being hurt, of not getting what they want. Because of this fear, based on stubborn self-will and pride, they build defenses. They think these defenses will stop the pain. In truth, though, building images doesn't stop pain. It makes it worse because you're making rules that reality won't follow. If you think about your problems from this angle, you'll see you tried to avoid pain, but just ended up in even bigger trouble. Think about what caused you to build this image. What were you trying to protect yourself from? Did it really work out? Once you answer, you'll see pain can't be avoided that way. Since none of us are perfect, some pain is unavoidable. If you accept life's pain while trying to learn from it, you'll face much less pain. The little pain you do face won't be half as bad. So try to think about pain in this new way. Understand that being scared of it is worse than the pain itself. Many of your problems wouldn't exist if you understood yourself and your images. When you realize you're the one responsible for your troubles, it's a major point in this work. It might confuse some people who think this idea removes God from the picture. They believe that either God sends their troubles or there's no God at all. Neither view is true. Accepting your own part in your troubles will free you, as long as you don't punish yourself over your mistakes. Once you stop feeling guilty, this acceptance will give you strength and inner peace. You'll stop feeling like a helpless boat on that stormy sea. You'll know there's no unfairness, and that will give you confidence. Responsibility is important here too. Almost everyone tries to avoid it, even though they hate feeling trapped. This conflict can only be solved by seeing why and how you gave up your freedom in creating these images. Reactions to taking responsibility differ from person to person. But remember, the more you avoid it, the more trapped you become. Straining against these chains, blaming the world as unfair, and feeling sorry for yourself, you fail to break free. The first step to freedom is seeing how you trapped yourself. If you realize how you caused your own problems, you'll find ways to fix them. Think about your fear of pain. This fear causes all your misery. Trying to avoid pain is like being so scared of dying that you commit suicide. It makes no sense. You accept pain not because God wants you to suffer, but because you caused it yourself. Don't get mad at yourself or at the spiritual law that made this happen. Accept that you are imperfect and suffer only as much as your imperfection demands. The more you clean up your inner self, the less you'll suffer. Okay, and don't expect miracles overnight. You must also learn from your pain and accept it as long as you're in this imperfect state. The more calmly you look at yourself and your pain, understanding its cause and removing it, the faster it will pass. Then you'll have the right attitude about pain. Only by accepting and going through it, neither enjoying pain nor fighting it, can pain finally end. When you accept pain completely, you pass through it. Only by passing through something can you reach beyond it. The world's greatest thinkers agree that pain and pleasure join into one in the end. This is the way to reach that place. You don't find pleasure by dodging pain. You find it by moving through pain with full understanding of how you created it. So to be really clear, know that accepting pain doesn't mean you can't avoid it on your path. In actuality, you can avoid it more by facing it deeply and patiently. Let me know if this resonates with you. I love you. Connect soon.